Welcome back, guys, to the Cole and Tabor podcast. On the agenda today, we have like 3 movies, but it's kind of like we're both reviewing one, and we're each reviewing one other that was recommended by each other. So that's today's format. Looking forward to it.
We'll see.
How do you want to? Do you want to start with the one we watched in common, or do you want to start the other way around?
Let's start the other way around.
Sick. Okay. Cool. So I watched Pig, and you watched Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to do this?
Did you rewatch Warrior?
I didn't rewatch Warrior. I should have.
I rewatched Pig.
Nice. I should have rewatched Warrior.
Let's do Warrior.
Okay, great.
So this is a 2011 movie in which I got this confused. I get this movie confused a lot with The Fighter because it has a similar premise.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I guess brothers that like fight, I guess, is the genre.
Yeah.
But Warrior, it's your movie. You go.
Oh, cool.
I
like it. I just really like it. It's one of those ones that I feel like everyone should watch. And I don't think you have to be into combat sports, and I don't think you have to be into sports movies. It's just got good dramatic pacing, family drama, and like, some kind of like heavy family drama. The kind of thing that people can empathize with, who have any kind of like difficulties in their family life. And so it's just, I feel like it's a very strong movie in that way. I love just how hard it hits, and I I don't know of many movies that provide me as much uplift with the ending as that one. It has a very good kind of emotional and spiritual rise in the last few minutes. Just talking about how the ending like really like brings you up.
Yeah, because they're going through that really brutal 4-round fight, and then the end of the fight, it's him apologizing and somehow kind of working through their stuff while on the ground together.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty powerful.
Yeah. Ooh, man. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just remembering some like specific things in that scene, and I'm like, yeah, I love it.
But also, fuck Nick Nolte, bro. He doesn't deserve.
He's terrible
to be in the family love.
I know. Yeah. Screw that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, it made me so sad when like. There's probably some nuances I'm forgetting, but it did make me real sad that like, yeah, he's a screw up and he screwed everything up, but like him like being on the wagon, like away from alcohol and whatnot, and Tommy basically like bullying him back into his vices, and it's just like, oh, it just makes you so sad.
Yeah, it's a little intense, and Tommy's a very crazy character.
Yeah.
Like a complete mystery throughout the entire thing. And
yeah.
Tom Hardy plays characters like that a lot, it feels like, where they're aloof and they have like they all talk really crazy.
Yeah.
It's also crazy to me that Joel Edgerton, who's Australian, and Tom Hardy, who is somewhere in the United Kingdom, are both playing the American fighters, and they're very good.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point,
they are really good at that.
Yeah, the American accent.
And like you said, Tom Hardy with some weird specific ones sometimes. Like, did you see The Revenant?
Yeah.
Him putting on that like drawl that like doesn't even exist anymore. Like, it doesn't sound like a modern day Texan or a modern day Georgian or anything like that. It's literally like an accent that doesn't even exist anymore. And I'm sure he probably like studied something from linguists that suggests how those people spoke and like just actually nailed it. Like, it was so good.
Yeah, he puts a lot into it. And his accent he does in the Bike Riders.
Is that out already?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I'm talking about the trailer.
Yeah. Okay.
The way that it's kind of like a high pitch, but still kind of
Yeah, that's right.
raspy. Kind of
Yeah.
like the Capote. I don't know. I'm excited.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I like Tom Hardy a lot, and Joel Edgerton's also a classic mainstay. Nick
Mm-hmm.
Nolte, I don't really know that well.
Yeah, I know him from the 2003 Hulk movie, and
Yeah.
apparently he was some sort of heartthrob back in the day, but now he's Nick Nolte.
Yeah, I rewatched him in Cape Fear, which I had forgot how messed up Cape Fear is.
I never saw it.
Yeah, it's messed up. You may not want to watch it.
Okay.
I mean, it's still good. There's just a lot of stuff you got to get past to, like, in the middle of the movie, it gets real violent.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I liked all three of their like dynamics and like their whole history as a family that's fleshed out pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What were since this movie's 13 years old and I probably haven't seen it in 6 or 7, what are some of the things about it that you feel were dated? Because for a movie that's like that popular, but not like I know I'm certain there's nothing that it was not like some timeless thing. I'm sure there are things that maybe we thought were cool in Hollywood dramas back then that no longer are or whatever. Like, did anything about it feel kind of too 2011?
I don't know. A lot. I didn't realize that I saw a smartphone in there, and I took me back for a second because I was like, did they have those kinds of smartphones? They must have.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, I think it was 2008 was when the first iPhone came out, and I had one. I was still in high school, I think 2008, depending on when in the year it came out, I was either a junior or a senior in high school. But I had one friend in high school who had an iPhone, and it was like the coolest thing ever. Everyone else had normal phones back then. But yeah, by the time I left on my mission in 2011, I think it was still not necessarily the norm for everyone to have smartphones. But by the time I got back in 2013, everybody did.
Yeah, I had a flip or a slide phone up until I was like in high school or like couple years in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I forget that we have a pretty big age gap.
Yeah,
between the two of us. You're like what, 57 now, and
yeah. I'm trying to remember. I kind of wonder if the like obsession with MMA was peaking around that time or something. Like Ultimate Fighting and MMA are still something that have a huge following. But I know that there was like interest from almost everybody, including people who have no interest in combat sports. Like at the time, I feel like it was like peaking between like maybe 2007 and 2011. Like I feel like that was a big time for it.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like we go through like the motions of which things are good to make movies about.
Yeah.
Because like apparently The Fighter came out in 2010, so these were being made at very similar, if not the same time.
Yeah.
And recently it's been more boxing movies, if I remember right. I guess Roadhouse is a UFC movie.
Oh, that's true, huh? Did you ever see the old Roadhouse?
Nope.
Neither have I, dude. I don't know if I've ever seen a single like Patrick Swayze movie.
Footloose?
Nope.
Is he in Footloose? No, it's not Footloose. You can't keep Baby in the Corner.
Oh, Dirty Dancing.
Right.
Yeah.
Footloose
Kevin Bacon's in Footloose, right? He's the main guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about The Outsiders? Isn't Patrick Swayze in The Outsiders?
He is. I never saw The Outsiders. I never saw Ghost. I never saw Point Break.
Yeah.
I never saw. Yeah. I don't know, man. I should have seen all of these movies, but I haven't.
Yeah.
But Roadhouse looks interesting. Just saw the trailer for it, the new one.
Always good for whatever Jake Gyllenhaal's in, right?
Yeah.
That's me.
I'm there. Yep.
Uh, yeah, this movie, some of this stuff remind me of the Iron Claw, or maybe the Iron Claw reminds me of this, and it could
Sure.
also. I think those are also just like, toxic dads and um when they're talking about what is it? When he's talking to his dad and then he says something like when they left, I think I sticked around because I'd finally get your attention or something.
Right.
Uh Again, I'm not a movie quoter. I just but like those conversations were crazy, and like the way that they are just so blocked off and like trying to set up boundaries, and and then Nick Nolte is like, theoretically he's doing all the right things to try to get redemption, but then sometimes you just, you know in what Joel Edgerton, Brendan says, why don't you try that shit on someone who doesn't know you like I do?
Yeah.
This is a lot of interesting.
Is that the one where he's like right outside of their house and he's talking?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that scene was rough.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. One of the things that I think like I don't necessarily buy within the context of this movie was the idea of you said his name was Brendan, Joel Edgerton's character?
I think so, yeah.
Was the idea of him submitting Tommy in a fight. I just don't buy it. I'm like, he didn't beat him by submission or any other way. There's just no way.
Submitted that other guy, the big.
Oh yeah.
He got him into a leg lock, right?
Or whatever his name was.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then his thing was getting people into submissions, I guess.
Yeah, true that.
And then while Tommy was the one who knocked people out, or like just like barraged them until he was able to get them out, and then Brendan was the more methodical, get you on the ground, get you into a certain type of position so that you have to give up. Like even in that fight, he says, his coach says, the one with the big guy, Koba, I think.
Koba, okay.
Something like that. He says, you're gonna have to knock him out if you want to win, but then he still ends up getting into a submission.
Right.
It's just interesting.
Also interesting is I just realized that that their last name in this movie is Conlon, and that's also the name of the boxer, the opponent in the first Creed movie. It's Ricky Conlon.
Huh. And didn't that come out similar time? Maybe a year or two after?
Yeah, I feel like Creed came out probably like 14 or 15.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, 2015.
I think we just need more boxing movies or more fighting movies.
I like boxing movies, man. I really like them. And it's tough because it's hard to make a fake boxing match look real. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen one in a movie that's like, yeah, that looks like an actual boxing match. But they're fun anyway.
Like that kick at the end where he kicks Tommy in the face and it's like a backwards roadhouse or whatever.
Right.
That looked gnarly.
Yeah, that did.
That was nuts. That's kind of the fun with them. And then, you can tell a lot of good stories with like fighting and
totally.
And the fact that this movie ends with like a big block of just fight after fight after fight is also pretty good.
Yeah, it's like it's a good template for putting like. Basically, it's a good place to show a character like pushing themselves to some sort of emotional extreme, and like the kinds of like really difficult things that life demands of us sometimes are very very like well portrayed in combat movies where someone's pushing their body and their mind in pursuit of something that they usually also have like really high emotional stakes in. And it's cool. It's like, yeah, it's inspirational. It makes you want to push yourself. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. What do you think of the montage? If you remember it, where it's like a bunch of different split screens and they all have different aspect ratios, and it's constantly like flickering or like expanding and nothing.
Don't remember it at all, but I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, it was weird.
Do you feel like it didn't fit within the movie?
I don't know that. I just think it looks. Maybe that's the part that's dated. It just. It looks like someone just like put it into. They're like manually expanding stuff in like Adobe Premiere Pro or something.
I see, like keyframing these like things in a kind of amateur way or something.
Yeah, maybe not even amateur. It just feels a little pretty. I don't know. Like normally when you do like the split screen stylized, it's not like you're constantly worrying about different aspect ratios and like
Sure. Yep.
flashing images. It's like things are literally like split down the middle and you see like one thing on one side.
Yeah.
Or there are crazier versions of that. I just don't know if I like this one.
I see. Oh, I think I found it here. Let's see. Oh wow, did they do it? A 2 by like a 2.0 aspect ratio in this movie? Because this scene started out like this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty wide.
Okay. I don't know how much I like the really wide. Like I love 16 by 9. I feel like oh, Frank Grillo is in this movie. I forgot. I feel like we stumbled onto something very good with 16 by 9. But I think because 16 by 9 was so much more stretched, or is like flatter than 4 by 3, which we did forever. I think that people thought, oh, like more flat, more better, and they like kept going. And they come up with all kinds of crazy aspect ratios, and I don't like any of them, man. 16 by 9 looks so good. Sometimes, very, very small black bars on a 16 by 9 display, like I'm not sure what aspect ratio I'm thinking of, but like a very small difference sometimes is fine by me, but I don't like really thin images.
I like I just like what things that evolve, like things that where the aspect ratio feels purposeful and not just like this is how movies are made, so we keep making movies this way. I like when the thought process goes into it, which I'm sure most movies are like that.
Sure. Including, I take it you mean you also enjoy like when it changes with intention, like okay, that's cool. I've definitely I've been affected by that sometimes.
Like in the movie, have you ever seen Waves?
Uh-uh.
It has 3 different aspect ratios depending on which part of the movie you're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching that scene that you were talking about, and it is I don't like that the images are on a constant change as they're appearing and disappearing. They're constantly like moving and stretching aspect ratio and stuff. It reminds me a little too much of like those screensavers that bounce off of yeah.
It's a little jarring, and there's a lot of black space, just unused black space where
totally
it doesn't really work because it's not like empty space. Because it's like the empty space will be like 2 big black boxes, one main box, and then like 2 boxes over here with images, and then that'll change really quick, and it just I don't know. It feels too artificial.
I feel you. Yeah, they spend a lot of time with a lot of dead space. It's not like there's just always 4 images in there changing around.
No.
Just I don't love that.
I think it's interesting because they do have to show so many different like perspectives on the what am I thinking? The montage, because I think they're like cutting in between the 2 brothers and the dad, and then like it'll show the wife and like the coaches, and it kind of just goes all over the place.
Yeah.
And then it also has like the news on at the same time. So like it's a good way to give you a lot of information. I just wish it was planned out better.
Totally. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
I think sometimes the scene where they're on the beach, I think some of that conversation felt a little forced. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Like they're like the way that they talk to each other in that scene, cuz you get like
Mm-hmm.
no, I mean that is the first time they talk to each other.
Yeah.
They don't talk to each other at all in that movie until then, and then like the very end.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I thinking back to that, I can see that. Like I seem to remember that being a feeling of that scene for sure. It's
Yeah.
like high intensity, but like maybe via force.
Yeah, like we as the audience don't really like, we understand that they're brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and them in the movie they don't know each other really at all. So it
Yeah.
makes sense for there not to be any chemistry, but as a viewer, like you would still, it feels like you would still want like some, like them to feel somewhat familiar with each other.
Totally. Yeah. That's an interesting point. Like, there's kind of like a negative chemistry that
Mhm.
can exist between characters that still counts as on-screen chemistry, like, nemesis of each other. It's like a thing where the two characters aren't chemically compatible, but
Mhm.
their their mixture is something that is palatable on screen. Like it is compatibility or chemistry in some sort of negative sense, and that's different than just stilted, awkward, zero chemistry for characters that hate each other or something.
Right. So, this movie has been around for a while. I think I mean, yeah, I'm out of stuff.
Yeah, me too. I should have rewatched it, but pretty much everything I remember has been said.
Yeah. I I think some of the like social media stuff is interesting. I guess
Oh yeah.
the early, like him recording it on YouTube, and then there's like one YouTube video in the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
It very early on, especially in like the life cycle of the internet. I mean, we're still
Mhm.
early in the life cycle of the
Sure.
internet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because at the time, yeah, like YouTube, for example, would have been 6 years old when this movie came out. Next
Yeah.
year, it's going to be 20 years old. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of it's had a lot of time to stretch and grow and become slightly different
Yeah, not
over the
just
years.
a platform where you post random videos.
Yeah,
It had it now it has like a purpose and like a function.
totally. Yeah.
I think pretty good. I'm not sure if it feels fair to rate it at a Gran Turismo's,
Uh-huh.
because it's not, because this feels more of like a classic thing, like
Sure,
a.
yeah.
So I'll just say it's pretty good. I recommend
Cool.
it.
Cool. Sweet. I'm glad to hear that cuz I'll rewatch it, but yeah, I do remember like really liking it and like really wanting to recommend it to other people. Glad
Yeah,
you liked it.
it's the best part about watching movies is recommending it to people.
Mm, yeah.
Let's go to Pig.
Pig. All right, bro. What do you got for Pig? What what
Right.
what were some of the reasons you recommended it to me? What are your thoughts on it?
I really like Pig. I mean, not just because it has like the obvious parallels to John Wick, but I really like the I'm trying to think. It was like, for in the movie theater, when I watched it 2 years ago. It was just that moment when they're about to cook that final meal,
Mhm.
and knowing, like realizing what that meal was going to be, and that, it wasn't about like causing pain, it was about causing joy to someone, and just
Yeah.
how impactful food or like art can be to one's psyche.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
also that scene in the restaurant.
Yep.
Um so To start off, Pig starts out with it's Nicolas Cage, and we're in the Nicolas Cage Renaissance.
Oh yeah.
Where he is being used correctly in almost every movie he's been in. And in this one, it's very, he has a pig, and late at night, and we get to know this pig enough, like I want to say like 10 minutes or something, and then he gets, Nicolas Cage gets beat up, and I guess they're junkies, steal the pig. And then that's the opening of the movie. And it just kind of goes on this ride. What do you think?
I also really liked it, yeah. I think that because of the obvious parallels to John Wick, I spent the whole movie waiting for him to go John Wick on people. It's like, oh, he's a chef, but he's also like a hitman or something.
Right.
And obviously, like you said, no, he does his fighting with psychology. Like he broke down Chef Fenway or whatever by just being, just getting into his head about like, well, not getting into his head, really, like opening his eyes to like,
trying
this
to
isn't what you
inspire him.
want. Yeah. And that's how he got him to cough up, what he knows about where the pig is. He didn't have to threaten him or anything like that. And then to get the guy at the end of the line to, be willing to at least address the topic of returning the pig. He cooked that meal, which I did not have the same foresight you did. I didn't realize what he was cooking him until the guy broke down crying and ran out of the room. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
nice.
I cried leading up to that when they're cooking it, and you're just,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, just when they're like, or when they talk about that meal, so it's like the night after, and this is Alex Wolff, who is also in Hereditary.
Yes, yes.
He's great in this.
He is.
But when he's telling that story, when he's like, my mom and dad always go on date nights, and they went to this restaurant, and then they always talked about this, about this meal, and just how much like that moment meant to them.
Yeah.
And then it kind of plants the idea that it would come up later.
Yeah.
But you don't realize it until it's happening.
Yeah. There were a couple of times where I wondered if the exposition was getting a little too blunt. Like when he's first sharing that story and he says something about, and then the chef just disappeared one day, and Nicolas Cage is sitting there like, yep.
Yeah.
Who? Wasn't me. I don't know. I remember being like, okay, so obviously he's the chef. Like, and I wondered to myself at that moment if this movie was just like being too blunt or whatever. But I don't think it was, because I think there was like one other moment earlier in the movie, and I can't remember what it was, that gave me a similar feeling. But no, I think overall, everything that was said and when it was said and done, like it did make sense. Like it made sense for him to talk about that story right then. It made sense for
him to go see his mom right out, because he says, my mom passed away, she took her own life, and then they have that big fight, and then she's still alive.
Yeah,
that's a heartbreaker.
That really was. There's this massive coincidence of the person who made the most impact on his mother's happiness in her like whole adult life or whatever happened to be the guy that he's been buying truffles from for some time. Like, but it's fine that coincidence is there. Like the fact that he was talking to him about the things he was talking to him about made sense. So that other happenstance is just fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you consider like the whole underground of the cooking industry in this, it's all connected. So it's eventually this stuff will kind of collapse in on itself regardless.
Yeah.
I thought the way that they piecemeal that out to you, though, like that he's important, I was thinking about it because that scene where we learn Robin Feld is his name, it seems very similar to the scene where we learn of Baba Yaga. I don't know.
Totally.
I can't remember if that's the first time we hear John Wick, but that is certainly the first time we hear about like him as like a myth.
Yeah.
And in the same way, it's like they go into this underground world. He writes his name on a thing, and then palpable. The room is silent. They start betting money. They bet a little more money, and then it's just interesting the dynamics, because if you think about John Wick in that it's all about like wanting to inflict pain on other people and like going straight for revenge, and a lot of this one, and in that scene in particular, he's letting people inflict pain on him as his like origin story.
Totally. I actually wanted to ask about that scene because I feel like I am missing a piece of the understanding, and I'm wondering if you can enlighten me on it. But so he's like, Edgar runs fights for restaurant workers, and I'm like, okay, runs fights for restaurant workers. So there's a huge demand for underground fights in just among restaurant employees. Okay, so is this like fights for them to bet on, or fights that they're in? So we get there, and what we see is a restaurant worker just beating the tar out of some homeless guy, it looked like. And I was like, oh, so it's not, and he's got his hands behind his back, and it's obvious that he's made to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so it's not fights for them to bet on or for them to be in. What is he doing? He's like, what are the bets about? What is the tally on the board about? What is this thing that all these restaurant workers are super into? What's accomplished by it? What's won by it? What are the bets placed on? How soon someone will fall down or something? And then, they all lay all this money out the second Robin Feld shows up. And it's like, oh, okay, so he's known as a tough guy in this industry. Like, I can't remember if I fully realized he was a chef yet.
Yeah, I don't think you do for at that moment.
Okay. So it's like he's a tough guy from this scene.
You just know that he's important. And it's really, once you hear the story from Alex Wolff about the chef, you realize, oh, he was the chef.
Right, yeah, okay.
I think the underground space, it's like a way for service workers to beat the shit out of people that they maybe have grudges against or hold some kind of animosity or respect for. I don't know. Something along those lines.
Interesting. So
because the dude that pays for it is like a bellhop or like a server of some kind, I believe.
Okay, so the money they were laying down was their bids to be the person beating that person up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that guy puts out like the big spread of money, so he's gonna beat up Nicolas Cage.
And if you remember, Edgar says to him before this happens, when he goes to meet him, he says, "You're nobody. You mean nothing."
Yeah,
and then Nicolas Cage, Robin Feld says, "I do mean," his way of showing I mean something is just by writing his name, showing off his face, and then money starts flying out because his name does mean something.
Interesting. Okay, so and at this point, I just don't quite remember. Was there something else that came from him doing that? Did Edgar give him something? Was something gained? Or was it... Sorry, go ahead.
Edgar gave him the information about the restaurant, where he later go... Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're all... It's all like a connected web of...
Yeah, okay. Interesting. So he shows up, and probably, like obviously all the people that are bidding to get to beat him up they all recognize him. And him going there and taking the beating was like his way of telling Edgar, like, yeah, I do still mean something. Also, I'll do whatever it takes. Is that kind of... That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that scene. It's also one of the first, like, the weirdest scenes.
Yeah.
Where you truly get like a sense of there's more to this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Any other moments that like stand out to you?
Every time he didn't fly off the hit, like in a time of high intensity, when he didn't like grab a frying pan and cave someone's head in or whatever, like I was shocked every time. Like starting with the junkies, when we find out like, oh, these are the actual people who hit him over the head and took his pig like last night.
Mm-hmm.
When we find that out and he's talking to him right there, and they're like, oh, we don't have the pig anymore, and he's just like, who does? In my mind, I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. This guy would first like strangle them where they sit, because it's like they left him for dead and they stole his pig. It doesn't matter that the pig isn't with them right now. They're still guilty of that. So like obviously he's going to kill them, and he doesn't. And then he moves on to the next thing, and it's like every time he's confronting someone, including what's his name's dad, Alex Wolff's dad,
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, he's told no, and instead of like, you know, like, I don't know, taking a pin from the desk and attacking him, whatever, he's just like walks out the door defeated is what it looks like.
Uh-huh.
So I was surprised every time, because again, I was expecting John Wick to happen.
Yeah,
but
expecting the revenge to kick in.
Totally. I found myself like totally satisfied with like him not being that character. Like he's a chef.
Yeah.
So, and he had some realizations in life that led him off the beaten path, and basically everything he was telling to Chef Finway, where he's just like, none of these people are real. This isn't real. There's nothing of substance to this. Those are all things he realized and decided to go live out in the mountains. And It was like, so that guy, like, yeah, there are probably things he would beat someone up over or whatever, but
at this point in his life, he's calmed down.
He's found better ideals to live up to, I assume. Mm-hmm. And he does his fighting with psychology, or really with truth, with emotional truth. And it was cool.
It doesn't always feel like he's like trying to get back at people, or like trying to do, like, clearly he has his goal.
Mm-hmm.
But also it just seems like he just wants people to like he's almost calling stuff out. Like he thinks it's like, you know, when he calls that chef's food bullshit, mm-hmm. and then proceeds to when he says he's like, I bet you don't even remember me, and he's like, nope, Derek. Derek, I fired you on this specific day for this. And then he's like, do you remember what we talked about when I fired you? And then the chef is just like, it's such a powerful, like the way he pauses, and mm-hmm. like that actor is great.
Yeah, he was.
And then it's the, what did you want to make? And it was like, I can't remember.
Something Scotch eggs. I don't remember it. Yeah,
it was great though. There's just a lot of weight, and I wrote down one of the lines after what you were saying, when he was saying like they don't care about you. He says, we don't get a lot of things to really care about. Like that. That's, I mean, that line hits a lot.
Yeah, that was really good, and that was like the moment where you realize he's not going to take a punch at anybody. Like he's going to, again,
deconstruct you.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah, deconstruct you, just like a food preparation.
Exactly. Just like the...
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And this movie pairs well, I bet, if you watch this and The Menu together.
I was going to say, what an interesting mixture of John Wick and The Menu this movie was.
Yeah.
Such a weird concept, but it worked.
I like all this stuff with his wife as well. If you think about what, like the dog, because the dog in John Wick is like, it is a representation of his wife almost,
right?
In my head. In this one, the pig isn't a representation of his wife; it's just something that he loves.
Yeah.
So when that gets taken away, I think we're separated from the two things. So I don't know. It seems like I like that the pig has more context in this.
Yeah. I also like that at the end of the day, it wasn't about like like
Eating truffles.
yeah, it's like, yeah, his livelihood is 100% unaffected by this pig going missing. Whereas previously, like, you did understand, like, he loves this pig, he's gonna go get her back, you know. But you also thought that it was like, that was also like, she was a special pig in that way. Like, that was an important aspect of this. And it's like, turns out, like, he doesn't need her for any of that.
Yeah.
It's just his friend.
Yeah. Just the thing that he loved.
Yep.
I like that they throw his name around a lot in this movie. And then it's like, yeah, like Baba Yaga or John Wick, people are constantly like immediately speechless. And then
Yeah. I found an interesting coincidence in his name being Robin and his wife's name being Lorelai. Robin's not a, like, super common male name these days, and Lorelai is not a particularly common name. Like, that you hear them around, but they're not huge names. But I have always wanted to name a son Robin, and I used to date a girl who wanted to name a daughter Lorelai, so I just found that funny.
Yeah, that's a little interesting sneak peek.
Yeah.
Easter egg in your own life.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. And then, yeah, once I lost it. I lost the thread.
All good. Freaking Nicolas Cage, man. It's very clear that he is, like, he's actually very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we might have talked about the Community episode where, like, the whole plot of the episode is like, or the point of one of the subplots is Nicolas Cage a good actor or a bad actor? And the answer is, it's impossible to tell because he's just crazy. You'll never know. Like,
yeah.
And I think that he's done stuff that
I think he's
like,
just a good actor now.
Yeah. And historically, some of his stuff has just been so... It's not necessarily that the movies were weird, but his portrayal in certain movies has been so weird that it was kind of sort of hard to tell. I've always had an affinity for the guy, but it's just like, he acts so weird in this situation that, like, I can't tell if he just doesn't get it, like, he doesn't get the role and he's misfiring, or if, like... That was loud. Yeah, or if this is just like, if this is outside of his skill set, or if, like, I don't know, something seemed mismatched. And so I think when you say he's being used how he should, almost exclusively nowadays, I feel like that's totally true. Like,
right.
He can't
because people are casting this guy who likes to be weird in his choices as like normal characters who aren't supposed to be portrayed as weird.
Totally.
But
Absolutely.
when you're looking at Robin Feld as a character, it's like he's this like dry recluse that is kind of unhinged a good amount of the time because he's separated from society, and he's also has this like emotional baggage that is just like ingrained in his character, this like ultimate tragedy that he lives with, even though we don't really even know what happened prior.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think he just knows how to portray those eccentricities of people very well.
Yeah. So I think in some of those prior cases, it really was kind of like misfiring because the demands of the role were maybe not the same as something he wanted to do or something. I don't know. But
yeah,
there have been times where it has felt almost too weird to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. You put this man in a normal movie, and like even saying that Robin Feld's eccentric, he's not the loud bombastic that you think of Nicolas Cage. So clearly Nicolas Cage knows how to play things. Yeah, it just seems like it's everyone else's fault that he was in bad movies.
Yep. Yeah, it kind of seems that way. Misuse of what's his name? Willem Dafoe has a great interview where who knows? He's probably said this multiple times, but I remember watching one where he was like, "I love being used as like a paintbrush in a director's hand. Like
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't see himself or what he brings to the table as being like it has to be about like how he wants to do it. He's not one of those actors. He recognizes that like the only roles he's interested in are ones in which there is a specific vision already existing, and he wants to go and execute that thing. He wants to see how malleable he is to be able to do the thing that's needed, and and that's where he gets his thrill in acting. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems like Nicolas Cage is maybe just not that, where it's like he's not there to be bent into any shape. It's
Mm-hmm.
like he's very, very good at executing like the shapes that he's good at executing. And so a director pulling him in for the audience draw, pulling him in and then basically like misusing him as like trying to bend him into a certain shape the way you would with someone like Willem Dafoe, like that's
Mm-hmm.
been the misstep.
Right. I'm thinking of the paintbrushes a little bit of a different analogy where each paintbrush is so specific to what you want to do with it. So maybe Nicolas Cage is also a paintbrush and people are just finally grabbing him off the shelf at the right time.
Okay. Yeah. He's a little a pencil line paintbrush, little pinstripe
Right. No, I
paintbrush.
think he'd be the big one. He'd be the big, fluffy one. What's exact? Yeah.
It's like 8-inch wide, like
Yeah.
just like splatter stuff onto the canvas with it.
Exactly. And then William Dafoe is kind of like that medium-sized one. And then Leonardo DiCaprio is the thin one.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's good. I like that analogy a lot.
That's a fun thing about metaphors. You can kind of twist them
Totally.
however you want. And then yeah, ultimately we get to the end of this movie, which yeah, when they're I've seen one criticism that was like the food at the end should have been shot better because
Oh, okay.
it kind of looks a little gross. Yeah, a little. It's like not lit very well. It's very
Sure.
dark and dingy, which is a choice, and
Yeah.
it's whatever you want it to be. But I do. But that whole section, like we've said, is just so much emotion packed into it.
Hmm.
And him like going to the bakery beforehand, and Alex going to get the wine from the mausoleum.
Yeah.
It's such a good cap off for the end of the thing. Such an emotionally fulfilling cap off.
It is. And this, like, there were just a lot of things, a lot of like audio visual things in this movie that I did think were beautiful, like from the beginning on through. And so it seemed appropriate, yeah, for it to end on a particularly beautiful one of those.
Yeah. When he learns that his pig got killed, and he, like, I don't know, like, just imagining how that whole thing plays out, where the dad sits down to eat, and he's unassuming at first because he doesn't fully remember, and he takes that first bite, and he goes, "Huh." And then he drinks the specially prepared wine, and the whole and then he starts crying. And then he walks off, and then Nicolas Cage in with this like crazy statement where he's like, "I remember every meal I've ever cooked," which is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I remember every person I've ever cooked a meal for. Okay, sure. and then he explains that story a little bit. And then the dad just finally gives in, and then when he says, like, you know, the junkies, the pig died, and all of the sound kind of cuts out, and you just see Nicolas Cage like drop to the ground.
Yeah.
But then he gets through it pretty soon afterwards, just because that's who he is as a character.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of like in the Iron Claw how we talked about, what's his name? Kevin had been processing grief for so long throughout the movie that, like, at the moment of the highest, like, grief he could feel, it was a concise, acute moment of intense grief, and then he was kind of able to pick himself up and move on. And maybe similarly, Robin was like, he'd kind of been grieving the loss of his wife and this missing pig, at least for like a few days, and so when there was conclusion to it was he could cry it out and pick himself up.
Move on.
Yeah, I think that moment you're talking about where he just collapses onto the floor, I loved the audio from that moment, because the dad's voice is like slowly fading right up until the end of his sentence, so that it's blacked out by the end of his sentence, like totally silent, but you did hear everything he said as it faded, and then it's silent right at the moment where Nicolas Cage bursts into tears and collapses onto the floor.
Yeah.
It was just such a good like gradient, and
Very
then
expert.
high intensity, man.
This is one of those soundtracks that I listen to a lot when I write to.
Nice. Okay.
It's like this and the Sisters Brothers. It's the Sisters Brothers. It's like a Western with Jake Gyllenhaal, John C. Reilly, and Joaquin Phoenix.
I think I remember.
And Riz Ahmed, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not Riz Ahmed. That's not who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
But yeah, you should listen to this soundtrack in your free time. It's
Cool.
so beautiful.
Sweet.
So yeah, what'd you think? To cap off.
Oh,
wait, one more thing. When he
Yeah.
finally washes the blood off of his face, I just like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I found myself. Sorry, go ahead.
All the nature photography in this is great as well.
Yeah, it was really nice. The very, very opening shot, the river, and then him washing his dish in the river, and like it was serene, and like you understand why he's out there. You feel it with him. It's really cool. That scene where he's washing his face, I like couldn't help but wonder about two things, and I was just like, man, how bad must that hurt to put just shockingly cold water and some pressure over those really swollen open
dried
cuts.
up.
Yeah. And then I was like, also, I wonder how much that affected, whatever spirit gum or whatever, makeup was on there, in terms of like, they were probably like, don't put too much water on it.
Right. Don't get too overzealous there, Nicolas Cage. We need to calm it down just for this one rub of the face.
Yeah. I would say overall, I wanted him to get his pig back and all that, and there were a few things that I think I wish I would have understood better about the world while watching it, but that's probably on me.
Second watch throughs exist for a reason, right?
Yeah, true that, and I think this one deserves it. Very good. I really liked it, and I just thought it was gonna be some off the rails indie Nick Cage movie. I didn't expect like an actual like artistically made movie, so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a very good deconstruction of expectation, because
Totally.
Everything you think about this movie is not what it ends up being.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, now that Pig and Warrior, two movies that ultimately were very great, and it's always fun to rewatch stuff. Mm-hmm. It's also fun to watch new things, and I feel like it's a hard balance when you like movies to do both.
Yeah.
Because there's just too many movies.
Mm-hmm. You'll never keep up with everything.
Right. And I don't know. Sometimes it just feels really good to relive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyways, Rebel Moon. Zack Snyder's newest picture. I want to start. I don't think it's as bad as I think the Rotten Tomatoes score portrays it as being.
Okay.
Because I think it's got like a rotten 22%, right?
Okay. I don't really know what that compares to, because I don't know like what other movies get, because I don't ever see those ratings.
Yeah.
I kind of actively avoid them.
I try to too, but sometimes it's just like Valerian in the City of 1,000 Planets has 48%.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd say it was probably closer in value to Valerian than, but I would say maybe Valerian needs to come down closer to 22.
Right, right. I haven't seen Valerian. I just know that one. So, because I'm basically thinking like this is probably more middle of the road
Mm,
instead of like, you know, below 30%
yeah.
tile.
I'm gonna withhold like
Mm-hmm.
final judgment until the whole, what is it, a trilogy or however many are coming out, until the
I know.
full thing is out. I'll withhold final judgment, but I don't
Is it
have
going to be a
much good to say
trilogy?
about it.
It feels like it's only going to be like
A one
uh,
two.
yeah, one, two. I know the part
Okay.
two's coming out soon, but there's
Yeah.
probably three. I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. Well, let's figure out how. Um, it's crazy how it feels like directors think, and maybe this is missing the mark, but it feels like directors uh want to make these ultimate sci-fi epics. Um, like it feels like I think I'm reading into this wrong, but it feels like ultimate sci-fi epics is like a pinnacle of your career. And I just like out of sci-fi epics, there's only like two or three of them that I think are actually pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
like Dune and Star Wars.
Totally. Totally.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we need more sci-fi epics?
Here's the thing. I kind of do, because of
Mm-hmm.
the fact that yeah, there have been like the one-offs like Jupiter Ascending and Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets and things like that were false starts. There've been a bunch of those, but there have really only been a couple of like tentpole properties
Mm-hmm.
that have really done anything. You have Star Trek, you have Star Wars, you have Dune. Um, in terms of television, you have The Expanse. Not that it has
Doctor
established
Who.
itself as a tentpole Doctor Who, but rather just that I like it. Um, you have a few, but I would love for this thing that represents you know, um, an attempted look into our own possible future. Like, what could be more fascinating than that? Like, I would
Uh-huh.
love for that field to be populated with more competent voices. And I don't mean like voices that are more competent. I mean a greater number of competent voices. Um, and so I love seeing people take a stab at it, but it's so disappointing when they fail. And I feel like Zack Snyder is not the guy to do this. I
It's
wanted to believe, but I don't.
yeah, not in.
Not it.
I just feel like it's the epic part of that makes it too much
Okay.
sometimes. It's like when everything wants to be like a giant political drama where space Nazis come down and decide to kill indiscriminately. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I just want like smaller stories in general. Like
Yeah.
sci-fi movies are cool.
Uh,
But when they all feel like it's like they're dealing with these uh massive armies that are always just trying to wipe shit out.
yeah.
Uh, it like the stakes are always just I don't know, so ungraspable.
Yeah. Very lofty.
I'm trying to find the true idea of like what I'm trying to get at. It just feels like there's not enough small movies that get massive
Okay.
attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. And I am all for well, let's see if someone can make a new Star Wars, like big,
Right.
epic, like I'm all for that. But I agree with you that there should be more public uh, interest and investment in these like smaller properties, smaller ideas that are bringing forth like brilliant works.
Right. Like when when the struggle in this is just like make space Nazis and they're bad.
Yeah.
It seems like we could do a lot more interesting stuff when the entirety of our universe is a playground.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that Zack Snyder has now fouled two big things for me. Like seeing the trailer for this and being like, oh, someone's actually taking a stab at like making the next Star Wars kind of thing. And if someone had succeeded at that, I'd be very happy to have two Star Wars to work with.
I think Dune's the closest thing we've ever gotten to like another successful Star Wars.
Amen. And here's hoping that it kicks Star Wars ass because it has the potential.
Right. And then also hopefully it stops at some point and then
yeah. Uh-huh.
So that we can just breathe what we have and not keep suffocating.
Totally. And I think that part of the derailing in this scenario was like Zack Snyder was like, I'm going to make a new Star Wars, but he's trying to make all at once something that is as wide in scope as Star Wars has become over a period of 50 years.
Everyone sees the ending of Marvel or the ending of Star Wars, like how big it is now, and they're trying to do that in the start. Like you have to start small and big.
Exactly. And that was exactly the other property that Zack Snyder has ruined is that he was like, someone gave him the creative lead on DC movies and they were like, hey, catch up to Marvel this year. You know what I mean? And he went and like created a freaking mess.
Right. And Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice and all that garbo. Yep. So this movie, and I know we've talked about it before, but this movie is basically seven samurai. Like the whole premise is the same thing, which isn't bad. I tried to look up to see if like Seven Samurai took it from anywhere. And this is just Wikipedia. I'm not a scholar.
Wikipedia is a scholar.
Right. Normally, if it's based off anything, Wikipedia will tell you.
Right.
It looks like it was just written by Akira Kurosawa and another guy back in the day.
Okay, cool.
So it itself is a pretty original story.
Nice.
I'm sure it's based off something. I don't know. Anyways, derailment. But this movie, is like the whole thing where like they're being threatened. They have to make food. So they send off two adventurers to go collect a group of warriors to come back and fight. Like that's all the Seven Samurai.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I think that kind of starts when you can explain this movie as like Star Wars plus Seven Samurai equals Rebel Moon. It feels like this movie isn't bringing a lot of original ideas to the table.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Because I feel like there isn't anything in this movie that can't be explained by that equation.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you do find anything that does, you can then find the thing that's taken from instead.
Sure. Yep.
But so yeah, it just makes the movie feel a little not that cool. Even like when we're looking at because when we were when I was watching it, I noticed Tarek, the guy this is a cool scene where he tames the griffin.
Right.
Like that was pretty exciting to watch. But whenever I saw that guy, it just reminded me of John Carter.
Yeah. No kidding. Oh, that's funny. I kept trying to put my finger on it, and actually that was probably what I was thinking. But like I remember thinking like this guy would be a great Conan the Barbarian,
Yeah. He's basically like a Hercules.
Yeah, totally. He did look a lot like John Carter. I mean, in terms of style.
Yeah. The fact that he was mostly shirtless most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I noticed and was like, oh, this guy probably should have played was the guy from the farm planet, the guy who like sold out his chief and accidentally got him whacked. I can't remember that guy's name. But at the end of the movie, I didn't catch how much of the movie he was wearing this outfit through, but I noticed it at the end of the movie. He's wearing like this like blue shirt with I think like his sleeves rolled up or whatever and this brown vest, and he's this like tall like dark-haired dude, and I'm like, this guy should have played Nathan Drake. Like the hell is Tom Holland doing? Like
such a bad casting for Tom
I know.
Holland. I don't
Yeah.
know why. That movie shouldn't have been easy to mess up because we
Yeah.
already have Indiana Jones.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it would have been within this guy's acting range, but I was looking at him and thinking like he kind of looks it.
Yeah. Should have done it.
Yeah.
Should have had anyone really.
Yeah.
Anyone. Not that Tom Holland's a bad actor. I just.
Yeah, he's fine. He's a good
Yeah.
physical actor. You know, he's good at running around, jumping around, doing crazy stuff and fighting, but
That's probably why. That's probably why I got it.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of how we tackle this. What do you think of the villain?
The main Nazi dude or the
Yeah.
twist? Okay. I like that actor, but and the villain had a couple of really good lines, a couple of lines that I really liked. Like I had to say something out loud when he said when he's like, honor I understand, charity I do not, or something like that. I had to remark about it. I was like, that's awesome. Like that really gives color, like it really paints his character very clearly.
Yeah. And also like his organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I liked some of his monologuing, I guess, and I liked how threatening he was. And that's the scariest type of person, when it's like they seem nice but they're actually threatening. But I feel like, yeah, just the very obvious, like he's clearly like an SS captain, you know what I mean? Like I don't care for that. Like I almost said I'm over Nazis, but that's not what I mean. I mean, like I'm tired of basing bad guys on Nazis. Let's come up with a different organization, a different, you know.
Well, it's just because Nazis are so easy to make a bad guy out of, which is fair. But it's not exciting when it's just like bad guy bad because he wants to wipe everything of existence besides himself.
Yeah.
I also feel like I don't know if this guy can carry two movies, assuming. You know, I assume he's not the villain because we saw the villain. It's her adopted dad.
Yeah.
But they should have left him dead, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, he was good for this. That or don't kill him at all. Like, there's no reason for him to die.
Yeah. And then just be, like, resurrected in this, like,
10 seconds later.
hard
10
to
minutes later.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Where they kind of, like, pull his memories from his body, put him into, like, a alternate...
plane.
Yeah. Technological plane where his brain like lives and talks to this dude who I guess might also just be dead, and then it gets uploaded into like a bubble and it shits him out.
Yeah. And it's just like, is he alive? And the guy's like, barely. And he's like, hit him with everything, and they just start pumping him with juices or whatever. It's just like, okay. And then he comes back to life. Like, okay.
Yeah. I mean that first scene he's in, I think is good. That whole, but yeah, I just don't know if he carries it or if he should have the weight of the whole being the face of the Nazis.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what they're called.
It's
some organization.
Yeah. Also, I think I found myself unclear. I should have been paying more attention, I'm sure, but I found myself unclear on everyone's actual alliances, because the opening text on screen was like the king or emperor or whatever and his family were killed by political rivals, and now there's like whoever took over the seat of power is like going across the galaxy and killing everyone loyal to the king or something. But then like every time this Nazi dude shows up, he's just like, yes, in the name of our fallen king. But then his people treat the robot that serves the fallen king like crap, because that was who they were fighting against initially, because he was really on the side of the fallen king and these new people aren't. Like, I was very unclear on what the actual allegiances are.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I didn't pay that much attention to the opening crawl.
Okay.
I think all I can remember from those first couple scenes, images, is that I think, and this carries out through the whole thing, but when they show ships in space, it looks horrible.
Okay.
The CGI just didn't work for me anytime there's a ship in space.
Okay.
And then, but the very next image is her with that like horse thing, and I did like that.
The big planet in the background and her plow in the field.
Yeah.
That was gorgeous. Like, the second that came onto my screen, I was like, what?
This movie,
I was ready for this movie to equal that image. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful.
I think the things where this movie's good is that I do like the imagery, and then some of the world building, the creatures.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like a good amount of the warriors and the characters we meet along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not them, because they're all kind of, none of them feel like actual real characters. They all feel like archetypes.
Sure. Yeah.
But I like them nonetheless.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I was kind of 50-50 with the characters, where like some of them I really did like, including the farmer dude who was just kind of
who thought he was doing what he the best, and then
he's kind of out of line and kind of effed things up, and it's like, it's pretty condemnable, but he is just a normal guy, and he effed up bad, but he's not a bad guy. Like, I liked him a lot. I didn't like the main girl.
Okay.
I liked
the with the lightsabers, but they're really just two hot blades.
Oh, I couldn't
she
tell
didn't
where
really
she landed with me.
She didn't get a lot to do.
Yeah.
But I liked when she killed that spider thing, and then like her as a concept is kind of cool.
Yeah. I should watch her more closely if I watch this again, because like I'm finding a void in my mind about like what to think about her, or remembering what she even does.
I think this movie does suffer from that, is that they're not fleshed out enough.
Okay.
They do just feel like the only thing we know, what was it, General Titus, is that he was a general, his men died, he now hates the people. But we don't really know him. He's just kind of like again, I like him. Ultimately I think I enjoy his presence, but I couldn't really tell you what he's about.
Yeah. True that. Unfortunate.
And fuck Charlie Hunnam, bro.
Yeah, his character was weird. Like, I'm not sure that, I don't know. I'm not like, now that, you know, his little turn happened and you know what he was doing the whole time, like, I'd love to analyze and see if everything he did made sense under that pretense.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that it didn't, but it's like, I don't want to watch this movie again to find out.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we'll watch Rebel Moon 2, because we already watched this one, but I don't think I'd ever come back to this one.
Yeah. Like you said, some of the creatures and stuff were cool. Like, I like the thing in the pub that just like sends its tentacles up the dude's face and talks through it or whatever. Yeah.
That was freaky shit.
Yeah.
I like the robot that's gonna come up next movie. Like, that small little arc that we got, where it's like they don't fight anymore, and then he comes in and he just blaps that guy in the face.
Right. I forgot about that, because I watched this over 2 different days. But that was really, really a good scene. It was like pure free will. Like, he does have free will. And I liked that a lot.
I think the violence in this movie, though, is it has no teeth because there's no blood.
Interesting.
It feels like a lot of it feels weightless.
Okay.
Like when they shoot people in the head, and like you like I understand why, because the bullet is so hot that it immediately
Sure.
what is that? What is that word?
Cauterizes.
Yeah, sure. It cauterizes all the way through.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just like you're not seeing like when like the death falling isn't that like it. I don't know. Like she's killing people or people are dying, but
Mm-hmm.
um, but it feels like a kids movie, I guess.
I think I felt that during, yeah, like the gunfights and stuff, where I was just like, I don't know if I buy it. But
Yeah.
the anytime someone got clubbed in the head by that dude's like femur stick, whatever that was, that
Yeah.
like felt like, ugh.
Yeah, that looked like, especially when Sindri gets hit.
Yeah, yeah.
But that scene where the robot comes in and shoots somebody, like that, all I could think about in that scene is like she was slicing people with an axe, but then nothing was, they just fell over, and then
Yeah.
it even made like with the intensity of like the slow motion, the classic Zack Snyder slow motion,
Mm-hmm.
it has none of the same impact that like 300 or Watchmen gave it, because it doesn't really feel like these people are getting injured.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. There was one shot, like one gunshot in that scene where I remember thinking, I don't remember the specifics, but I remember being like, wait, that person just got like shot in the face, or maybe it was like in the back or something, but there was like no evidence of it. Like when they like slump over, there was like, wait, no, I'm sorry, they still have a whole head. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And the person I was watching it with was like, they pointed something out to me that might have justified that. Like maybe I misunderstood what happened, but I remember thinking that. I'm like, where's the evidence of the
anything
carnage? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, that was, I don't know. There are a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that robot,
Yeah.
I think the other like most beautiful shot in this movie for me was when the robot, right after he's talking to the girl from that village, and she gives him the little crown of flowers, and the camera goes to like under that little footbridge, and so he's framed by this like not quite half circle, but like water underneath him, and all the light coming in through that framing, and him being just really illuminated by the sun and these beautiful flowers on his head. It was like, that was such a striking image too. I loved that so much.
Yeah, I think the cinematography is not bad. It's good in a lot of moments.
Yeah.
I think the lens they use though kind of ruins some of the shots.
Okay.
Because they use that one with like the super shallow focus or whatever. If that's
okay.
the right term. Did you ever notice when they would do like multiple characters in a scene, but then one is maybe a little taller and a little further back? So like the rim of the blur kind of blurred out like the tops of people's faces sometimes.
Interesting. I don't think I caught it.
It happened a couple of times in the scene that you're talking about, where
Okay.
the girl's face, the woman's face, is just like, it's just so slightly blurred, and it was bothering me.
Yeah, that's weird.
But I think that's just Zack Snyder's new lens of choice or way of shooting stuff, because all of the Dead movie, Army of the Dead, was filmed like the same way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Just very blurry backgrounds. Did you notice anything of what I'm mentioning?
What you're talking about, the almost kind of vignetting with the focus,
Yeah.
I don't think I caught, but like I can, when you're talking about the shallow depth of field thing, like I can see that in my mind if I think back to the movie.
Yeah. And I think the vignetting, there was a little bit of vignetting, but it also just felt like things that were a little further back just didn't get the focus that they needed.
Right. Okay. But like they're there and important to the scene and active in what's happening, but it's like for some reason they're buried.
Yeah, or they're just like just barely, I don't know.
Okay.
Like you couldn't make out. it, like facial features were just getting muddled.
Gotcha.
So that was like a constant bother for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What else was there in this? I thought that planet they go to where it's like giant pillars in the air and they look like the tops of skyscrapers. I didn't think that
Right.
looked good. There's a lot of
Yeah.
CGI in here that just bothered me.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
And then some of the action is just straight not fun to watch.
You got anything specific in mind?
When I wrote that down again, it was like those early fight scenes where I don't know, it just wasn't like the choreographing of the fighting wasn't good.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that like Zack Snyder could do a world of good in film if he occupied a different role. And the thing is, he would never be satisfied with anything other than like writing, directing. Well, specifically directing, but also, you know, co-writing and stuff nowadays. I don't think he'd be satisfied with anything less, but he's no good at most of that. But he is very good at visual design.
Yeah.
Not with, you know, a few little bugs and hitches here and there notwithstanding, he makes things look good, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And I wish we could have his talents put to use in someone else's work that was like written well and directed well and cast well. But that'll never happen. Like he's depriving us of what could be really good work from him in, you know, in a bigger team effort by needing to be the director.
Yeah. This auteur, but
yeah,
I don't know. He's not that exciting to watch all the time.
Yeah.
The other action that I wrote down was when that guy Blood Axe is running towards the turret and then jumping off and stabbing.
Mm-hmm.
When he's running on that narrow crane whatever thing,
Right.
just didn't look that good.
Yeah, I do.
The slow
remember
motion
that.
doesn't always look great.
Yep. Here.
Yeah, I'm trying to. That's all the notes that I had.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else stand out? I don't know. All I know is that the whole thing felt like a misfire to me, like a wrong first foot forward on an attempt to create such a big thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what all of the right things would have been to do, or if anything could have necessarily saved this particular project.
Yeah.
But it feels wrong, and that's just kind of disappointing because, again, it looked cool.
Yeah.
In the trailer.
It ended up pretty dry.
Yeah.
Not fully original enough to keep me not thinking about other stuff while I'm watching it. And, you know, when a movie that is basing some of its best parts off of other things that are already good, you know, you would just want to watch those other things.
Yep.
But I think we'll probably end up watching Rebel Moon Part 2, and then if there's a Part 3, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
At some point we might have to stop.
Yeah.
Back to the ultimate way of talking about movies in relation to Gran Turismo.
Oh yeah.
I think this is probably worth about half a Gran Turismo, maybe less.
Yeah, I'm going like point. I'm gonna say like 0.2 Gran Turismos.
Right.
Or in other words, 2 out of Gran Turismo.
I think the other thing about this movie is that it's none of the story or none of the emotional beats work all that well.
Yeah.
Like they'll explain like an entire tragic backstory, but then it doesn't make me care anymore about
I know.
the person you
Oh.
heard it about.
Yep. I didn't care about her the whole movie.
Yeah, yeah. A little dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Watch it if you want. I don't think you need to in order to have a successful life on this planet.
Amen. Amen. Unless you just want to watch it to talk crap about it with other people, because one of my coworkers was like, I need to talk to someone who's seen Rebel Moon. And I thought it was because he was all excited because he liked it. And I found out it was because he just needed someone to rail on it with.
That shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us today with the movies that we've talked about, and stick around. That's all I've got for you. Good night.
Thank you much.